It's up to you. If you're comfortable there, you can sit there or you can sit wherever. I have a seat here.
Thongma Chino Gonsa Jamga Jumcho Kuchagon to Fulne Chilo Nidong Nishu Chindaniba Seni Sajin Canada, Ontario, very Chidun Sokatang Kanjo Chudilingi Godio Begelo Nidong Chigja Shipshedi Rabne Chakjile Big Namlo Sarshebe Kate Tende Zego Sungzi Chipjur Changbe Chamne Lajudang Kending de Kundunzo Kushap Dr. Michael Van Watt Tang Zebe Shen Gudu number Ubimitic Zugi Kasur Dan Chisur number Shungshap Surba number Kanjo Chudiling Sozo Canada, but then Jabjosobe Genze Sheriff Tajinla Canada TDS Big Lobji number Shunde Dang Shunde Maimbe Sobakido Kage Sozo Dan Social number Xiang Serja Mimang Pomo Yongdang Lobju Jela Gube Kanjun Chudilingi Jule Zangwe Zap Shute Mixi Dring Losa Zego Chuchi Zangwat Namla Sangmalo Samdi Trustele Shui Trustele.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the President and the Board of Canadian Tibetan Association of Ontario and Tibetan Canadian Cultural Centre, I would like to welcome you all and extend our heartiest greetings as we celebrate Losar, the Tibetan New Year, the year of Iron Mouse 2147. We would like to acknowledge some of our special guests this morning. Members of Sangha, our chief guest, Dr. Michael Van Walt, special guest, Mikla. We would also like to welcome Member of Parliament for Parkdale High Park, Honorable Arif Rani, Chola Arif. Member of Parliament for Etobicoke Lakeshore, James Maloney. Member of Provincial Parliament for Etobicoke Lakeshore, Christine Hogarth. Our City Councillor for Ward 4, Gord Parks. Please join me in also welcoming our very special friend, former Senator Councillor Dinino. And our longtime supporter, Pauline and Edward. Our pro bono lawyer, Phil Trottier. Canada Tibet Committee Executive Director, Sharap Tarchinla. And I also would like to recognize the presence of the principals from our community schools. Central Tibetan Administration's former Justice Commissioner, cabinet members, members of parliament, and staff. Former presidents of Canadian Tibetan Association of Ontario and Tibetan Canadian Cultural Centre, and presidents and board members of local Tibetan organizations, and other distinguished guests. Thank you.
Lasso che la tocena. Tadi Jesu Tangbo ge zirim kendu betsebe Sangsuegi Zerimda and Tondurum Bache Ubadin Shua Zerim Sama Troops in Bache. Take Jella Conjuchudin Soju Lapta Loptu Namne big up chimbe, Geluda, Canada, gig up chimbe, Geluton Juice.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for Tibetan and Canadian national anthems led by TCCC's performing arts students.
De Jesu, Gan Dugelagi look to Namne, Big Losache, Dentegi, Nyamshe, we should you. Did I am the soldier than TC? Tala Shapshuba Namla, they wish you now share.
그들
가서 겐동gel라다 어서 도체나 대제 배숑 도갈 수바남네 자시조바 탑든 슈주
바사트리 어떻게 나도 양롱 시쇼 자 야저 시쇼 와와리 뭐 아이 이제 와와리 뭐지 저 바니 기쁘다 저 바니 기타사 나마고가 해쇼 그룹 신기 슈반다부 부강리 까보이고도 집에 좀 돌아도 제주 만조 야로 다시 쇼바세 와데 보랑한테 공가로 와가셔도 그때 비티를 버티니 밀로 바르고 무슨 바르고
Kanju Chudiling, the Ontario Puritan Sobe, Soso, Sitting Wangel, Chone, Losaki, Samdi, Sungshin Nangju, Sozula, Tinjala Perna.
Thank you, all the artists, former artists from the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts. That was an outstanding performance. Next, we have speech by Mr. Tsering Wangela, President of TCCC, and CTAO.
Togma delia, Peggy Lana Mebeuti, Sede Chini Gamne, Zamling Shide de Ben, Chino Consa Gamgage Mucholia, Kujango de Tane, Tering, Pegalo, Nidon get a ship shabdu, Ramne Chapo, Chivelo, Namlo Sardu Shebe, Caduela, Kuigi, Ontario, Purichident Sokba. 다 강준 최내링기 윤례 상매 삽시대 진월 공사 겸게 전부초 수 배기 최규 가기 라제다 라드에 남라 닝의 땡내 삼디 뜻이텔레 다 겨지 겨외 공시 타다 현기 두배 멜람타 자 디거 제골라야 Pebe Kamne Ladun Ta Gendu Namba Kunde Zowo Michael Van Walcho U Peme Diksugi Kasur Ta Chisur Namba Teshin Shungshab Surba Namba Tene Canada U Ngade Ta Sane Tuzogi Tumi Namba Tenangshin Sane La Yube 속바단 기도하기 속도섭에 균례 넘버 다가난 신기 Toronto District School Board 기 롭지타 대신 미만 용라 로서베 삼디 뜻이 텔레타 류셈 대신 차와 강점 표som 속바 용와 면대 주기인 지르게지나 뱀이 내드테 공사초기 가디 칠랍타 전조 뱀이 딕수기 차례 차술라야 때네 아리스 잠링 초 강산네 겹겨 슉체 톱타 토미수유 대신 온테리오 표리주된 속밤 강중 촌델링 기톡네 레저 강자식 빼기 유익양 레든 차수유 용심바테 소니 공사초기 구수 투기 질랍타 벽이 딕수기 뱀이 딕수기 람데 대신 온테리오 뱀이 독자 직디기 토네 누바뽕 투바텔라야 누바뽕 투발라야 때네 용기 예버티 뭐세래 다도야 난저 벽이 최다 릭숑 젠지 제규토 속버티 열게 동체도 산에기 뱀이 미래모레 내 겹겨 나를라 용투베 레바타 이제 슈기유 대낭신 산에 수예베 속버기도 상말라 로서베 낭 베드 된다 세체 레규 체중 강자식 빼기 예바텔라 상매 냠루부터 니도 뽕토바타 레드 람롱 요베 레바타 면도 슈기유 아니 예자 갸나타 베낭도 나츠 베리 빈다타 게리 빈다초 다자 용 신베 또깁 치행기 내염 딜레 격률 되베레바타 멜람 슉체 겹규탄체 한 다된들야 라마구세 템바 타시쇼 잠링 시대 영화 타시쇼 시제 냠종 요바 타시쇼 Neme Tsering Yobatashi Show. Someday Lungu Dubatashi Show. Che Tashibe Tsiksu. Chene Tazela. The Nye de Tsikasheji Injinal Shugi, Anzu Delia, Takundu Manji Delia, Mixe Kunde, Anzu Chige Kayuza. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Tashi Deleg, everyone. Most of you probably know that the Central Tibetan Administration has marked this year as the year of gratitude to His Holiness, our 14th Dalai Lama. Therefore, I would like to begin by wishing His Holiness, a great spiritual leader, the reincarnation of the Buddha of compassion, a man of peace, a very happy Losar, and hope and pray that all his wishes are fulfilled. We are deeply, very, very thankful, and our words cannot express how we appreciate what His Holiness has done for us, not only for the Tibetans, but His message of love, peace, and compassion, as you all know, has touched the lives of many around the world. Thank you, His Holiness. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the board of the Tibetan Canadian Cultural Centre and the Canadian Tibetan Association of Ontario, I would like to wish you all a very happy Losar and welcome you all to the Year of the Iron Rat, Tibetan calendar lunar year 2147. As a community, this year was the very first year that we celebrate our new year in this renewed space. On Monday, February the 24th, that was our actual new year. We had the doors open. It was a weekday, and we had over 1,500 community members come in from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock. And, it was very touching to see a lot of the community members on a weekday to be able to actually come into the center. So today again is another joyous occasion, and we get to celebrate this with a lot of our, non-Tibetan friends and partners and supporters. So, of course, there's a lot more, entertainment and great food that you can enjoy at the same time. So today I have the honor of welcoming our chief guest for the event. Ladies and gentlemen, a writer, a lawyer, great advocate for Tibet, Mr. Michael Van Walt. Thank you, Michael, for being here. In addition to our other guests, I would also like to actually acknowledge Will Sutherland and his wife Anne, who are not here with us today. They couldn't come, so I would like to acknowledge them as well, because they have been very instrumental in actually bringing this place up. I would like to also acknowledge a man who does not need a lot of introduction, a great friend of His Holiness, supporter of Tibet. Since I've been here the last 20 years, I've seen, him at almost every Tibetan occasion. Former Senator Consiglio Didino. Thank you for being here with us. We also have our, supporters and a longtime friend, Pauline and Edward, who are always here. They don't, could you stand and, yep. Thank you very much. They've always been behind, the Culture Center. Of course, our federal Member of Parliament, Mr. Arif Rani from Parkdale High Park is here with us. Mr. James Maloney from South Etobicoke and Lakeshore. Members of Provincial Parliament, Christine Hogarth from South Etobicoke and Lakeshore. We also have Putila Capuchin from Parkdale High Park. Mr. Gord Perks, our City Councillor from the Parkdale High Park. Our Executive Director of CTC, the Canada Tibet Committee, Sherab Tharchinla. I would also like to acknowledge, I think this is the first time that I've actually we've actually sent out invitations, since I've been president here, to the principals of our schools where a lot of our Tibetans actually attend. Bev and Alana, you're here with us. Thank you for being part of this occasion today. I would also like to acknowledge all of the former Central Tibetan administration in exile, all the staff. Our Justice Commissioner is here, former Justice Commissioner, cabinet ministers, members of parliament, and then presidents of Tibetan local organizations and their staff here as well. Again, a very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us in this auspicious occasion. So before I leave you to enjoy the performances of our performing arts and the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts, the artists, as you witnessed one of the Tashisha Balagudlak dance, I'm very happy to report that the building renovation project for this building is now complete. It was in 2015. It was in 2015, the former President Sonamla, when he initiated this whole project. And the community has come together. We have a lot of support from the community, our partners, and we've been able to achieve this in less than 4 years. And I think that's remarkable with a community of this size. So now, just to give you an idea about where we are, the way you are sitting down here, where our guests are sitting, this is actually a gymnasium. So this is a full, size gymnasium. We have the prayer hall or the assembly hall here, and we can segregate basically this assembly hall from the gymnasium. And the next hall is also, we also have a retractable wall, and we have the banquet hall on the other side. So all in all, we have 3 different areas which can be utilized for the young, the old, and people who are recently getting married, or we have a lot of our language classes also in that area. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you that has contributed their time and money in making this happen. This is a great achievement of the Ontario Tibetan community, and it shows that how united we are. It is I believe that this is the state-of-the-art facility in North America, that has been actually brought up by Tibetans. This is what we will leave behind for our younger generation, and this is a great place for us to congregate, bring the community together, and above all, to preserve our rich Tibetan culture and traditions. I can probably say that outside of India, there's nothing, a facility like this. So I think we should all clap and give our hands a big round of applause for this achievement. And of course, this wouldn't be, possible without His Holiness and all of what He has bestowed on us. We know many around the world are battling right now with the coronavirus, especially our brothers and sisters in China and Tibet. We pray that those that are affected will be restored and the virus will be contained. Lastly, I end here with the warmest wishes to each one of you for a safe and a year filled with happiness, great health, prosperity. Thank you.
속조 제공글라초 도체나 네제 군련조 구샵 Dr. Michael Wanwat Chone Kalop Sungshi Nangju.
Thank you, President Sriwangila. Next, we have speech by our chief guest, Dr. Michael Van Walt, President and co-founder of CREDA, a conflict resolution organization, and Senior Fellow at the Institute for Social Sciences, University of California at Davis, an international jurist, and author of The Status of Tibet, History, Rights, and Prospects in International Law. Thank you.
Well, first of all, Tash Dele, very happy Losar to everyone. Let us hope that the Iron Rat year will bring great positive changes for all of you, but also for all the Tibetans inside Tibet, and for the world, which is not in such a good state. As some of you may know, my colleague Mick and I were supposed to go to Ottawa in the past couple of days to present a new report that we have completed and to speak to members of parliament there, some people in the government, and so forth, regarding Tibet, regarding its history, and regarding the obligation of the Canadian government and other governments around the world to work towards ending the occupation of Tibet and resolving the conflict between China and Tibet. And so, of course, we were very disappointed when, because of bad weather, the program in Ottawa was cancelled. But at the same time, we feel that what has happened now is that this is the first place where we actually announce or inaugurate this report that we have written. And it seems to be a very auspicious place and time to do so. And so I am very happy. It's kind of a celebration for us because we've worked on this for 10 years, and I'm happy to be able to say that we've now completed it, that it is very conclusive, and we hope very useful. This is what it is. It's the Tibet Brief 2020, and I will say a couple of words about it, since this is the first place that we're actually saying anything about it. So this new report, which we hope to publish as a book as well, deals with the history of Tibet from the time of Genghis Khan in the 13th century to the early 20th century. It reviews the relations that Tibet had with the major empires of Asia, the Mongol, the Manchu, the Ming Empire, but also the British. And it then reviews the more modern history of Tibet during the time that after the end of the Manchu Qing Empire until the invasion in 1951. Now, we focused a lot of attention in this paper on the question, or perhaps on responding to the question, was Tibet ever a part of China? And we did so in part because China's insistence that Tibet has always been a part of China, or since antiquity, that Tibet has always been a part of China, is an obstacle to resolving any conflict between Tibet and China. And so we investigated, with the help of and with the engagement of about 100 scholars around the world, scholars of Mongol, Manchu, Tibetan, Chinese, Persian, and other sources to determine whether the Chinese claim that Tibet was always a part of China was true, and if so, what the situation was. And we did so because we realized that whether Tibet was part of China historically or not is very important. It's not just something that is of interest to historians. It is something that is important because if Tibet was not a part of China historically, then Tibet was invaded and occupied illegally. And that has consequences in international law, not just for China, not just for Tibet, but also for the international community, also for all other governments, also for the government of Canada, in terms of how they should behave towards the Tibetans, towards the Tibetan government, towards the PRC, and towards resolving the conflict, the Sino-Tibetan conflict. Now, the good news is that after this intensive, years-long period of research, the conclusion we have reached is that Tibet, in fact, was never a part of China. And so although we entered the process of research and discussions with scholars with some doubts and some trepidation about what the outcome might be, I can say now, and I feel very confident, that there is no reason to accept the position that Tibet was always a part of China. It is simply not true. It does not reflect the history. But part of the reason why I have doubts, and I think part of the reason why many people in the world, government leaders, officials of ministries of foreign affairs, perhaps some of your parliamentary colleagues, but I think also Tibetans that I've talked to, have some doubt about whether there may be some truth in what the Chinese government says that Tibet was for centuries part of China, is because the PRC, because Beijing, has very effectively, for the past 60 or 70 years, but especially in the last 20 years, has very forcefully and persistently pushed its historical version, its historical narrative, showing that Tibet was part of China. And I'm not going to go into the history here because it is a complicated one, but you're welcome to read it here. And any of you who want a copy, please arrange that I have your email and I will send you an electronic copy. The Chinese government have been very effective, and they've been so effective that together with their story about Tibet's history and their increased economic and political and military power, they have managed to convince many governments to make statements that they consider Tibet to be a part of China. This has happened primarily in the last 20 years. Canadian government, for example, in the 1950s, the legal division of the then Ministry of External Affairs wrote a report in which it concluded that Tibet was independent. But today, position has changed and there is doubt. And it is not just Canada, it is countries around the world that have doubt in their position or have stated that Tibet is part of China. And so one of the things we set out to do in meeting with government leaders and parliamentarians, and we hope to do it in different parts of the world, is to show to them that there is no reason to doubt that now there is no excuse to state that Tibet is part of China. Because if Tibet was not historically part of China, China did not receive sovereignty over Tibet by having invaded and occupied it. International law prohibits invasion and occupation. International law does not give sovereignty to the aggressor. In fact, the whole system of international law is set up to protect the victim and not to reward the aggressor. And by recognizing that Tibet is part of China, governments are rewarding the aggressor without any need for that. So if in the past it was because there was doubt about the history of Tibet, today we want to lay that doubt to rest. And that is why we prepared the report. So for Tibetans in particular, I believe it is very important for Tibetans to know their history, for the younger generation to feel confident about it. I believe that the older generation that lived in Tibet and came abroad had no doubts about Tibet having been independent because they lived it. But for some in the younger generation that hear different narratives, that Google the question, they will come across many different answers, depending on the political leanings of the ones that have entered the information and the sources that they have used. And later today, when I will be speaking with the youth, I would want to spend some time on this. But also I notice that because there is some doubt, and because of the effectiveness of the Chinese propaganda, many Tibetans are today even adopting Chinese terminology, Chinese words to describe things. And the most obvious example is describing the Tibetans in Tibet as a minority of China, or a minority of the PRC. Tibetans are not a minority. Tibetans are a people. They are a nation. They are an occupied country. And there is an enormous difference between the two. And from the point of view of international law, it makes all the difference in terms of the rights that the Tibetan people have because they are a people, because they're occupied. If you're a minority, you're at this end of the scale of rights. If you're a people and an occupied people or state, you're at that end of the scale of rights. And the international community will determine what may be a fair, a reasonable solution to the Sino-Tibetan conflict through negotiations or by any other means on the basis of what they understand are the rights of the Tibetan people and the rights and obligations of the PRC. And so if you cannot confidently articulate the rights of the Tibetans according to international law, then that will disadvantage you in any negotiations with China and in any advocacy with governments around the world. And so I understand that it is difficult to conceive of major change today for Tibet, given the strength of the position of China and the fact that so many governments, corporations, and others seem to want to favor China as a big power. But remember that nothing stays the same. Everything changes. No empires have been eternal. And I personally have worked on numerous situations similar to that of Tibet, when nobody believed change was possible, with the Baltic states. And then the Soviet Union disintegrated and the Baltic states regained their lost independence. I worked with East Timor. East Timor was occupied just like Tibet, but by Indonesia, also a very strong regional power. Nobody believed that would be resolved the way it was. Indonesia was hit by an economic crisis, and the result was East Timor had a referendum and regained its independence. And there are other examples like this. So that today may not seem likely doesn't mean that tomorrow things will not change. They will. But again, in my experience, the only way that things are going to change in a way that will really resolve the conflict as you might want it to be resolved is if you remain engaged with the international community, you remain confident and active in articulating your position, which includes your history, with confidence, but also articulate your rights, because that is the basis on which a solution will have to be found. Thank you so much.
Dr. Michael Cho Songxian wala toje che shui deje lobgi palde omula lobju namne side gangla shebe shabshe sigunangju lobgi palde omula.
Thank you, Dr. Michael Van Walt, on your support and extensive research that you've done on Tibet. Next, we have dance performance by our youngest students, students of Gepande Omula. They will be performing Sinde Kangla.
Sinde
Also, game volume wala love to number pair with a better chap so to chena to chena. A DJ Gain Junilagi love to chung and when a Jomolang more shebe Shenas Winang.
Thank you to all the young students for the wonderful performance. Next, we have a dance performance by Ge Chungila's class, and it's titled Chomo Langma.
Jumulami te lando, jumulami te yalando, jumulami te lando le, lanki la te motakando. Yanu zambi pakarando, yanu zambi pakarando, yanu zambi pakarando le, magu peten zitu jetando. Esa no boli lando, esa no boli yalando, esa no boli lando le, chana pimi potanje tando. Chisho jami thalando, chisho jami thayalando, chisho jami thalando le, bawo pami namshi totando.
This would la I was on a better tap so to Jay. Teje look get one to lag, you love to win nature Lhasa Shebe, Shabro Sigunangju.
Thank you, students of Ge Chungila, for the outstanding performance. Next, we have dance performance by TCCC students of Gate Samantundubla called Nechol Hasa.
Lazo against Sandrula to China as a bear what up Nazo. Deji Ujo Gong Mai to me. Surba Kushap Consiglio Dinino Chon, Galop Social Nanjo. Dinoro, please come on the stage.
Thank you, students of Gate Samantundubla, for the outstanding performance. Next, we have speech by our very special guest, former Senator Councillor Dinino.
Wow, that's a lot of people out there. Losar Toshidele. First of all, I want to tell you, one of the reasons I come every year is because of the incredible beauty and talent, even of the young ones. I love this. And I think it's wonderful to see the traditions being kept alive. And if I can just ask one thing of you right now is, all of those who are giving up their time, their energy, their effort to continue to do this, to continue to make sure that the Tibetan culture and the Tibetan customs don't die, We should give him a great round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, who dedicate yourself to this. I'd like to make a few comments about my friend Michael Van Walt. Michael and I have known each other for decades. He has to be one of the most dedicated supporters of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan cause anywhere in the world. Everywhere I go, he's there, or he's been there, or he has done things for there. And together with his wife, Mick, who should be recognized as a co-author of the report that we just briefly described to you, have probably committed more of their lives to the Tibetan cause than anything else. And I personally want to recognize them, thank him, and praise him for this. You and Mick are exemplary, inspirational people for all of us to follow. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to talk very long, but every year it reminds myself that at New Year, we make New Year's resolutions. And this year, I'm going to add one to the one I usually make. And I think we should all do that. Michael talked about the fear of losing what will be a winning project or opportunity. He said we should not let the flame die. And you and I right now are going to say to Michael and to Mick, we are going to continue to promote the necessary dialogue, always peacefully, always within His Holiness's description, but we will be there until Tibet comes free again. And thank you for leading us there, Michael. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, my resolution is very simple, as it is all the time. I recommit myself to continue to work on behalf of His Holiness, with His Holiness, but on behalf of all of the people of Tibet, inside and outside, to make sure that we will succeed one day. We will see a free Tibet. Thank you very much.
Kushab Councillor Tineno Chola Songshia now Ningtawa Doje Cheshui. Teje Ushung Jozo Tumi Kushab Arif Rani Cho Kalub Songshia Nangju. Arif sir, come on the stage.
Thank you, former Senator Councillor Dinino. Next, we have speech by Member of Parliament for High Park Parkdale, Honorable Arif Rani.
Tujiche Tashidle Kusudebumbin Losar Tashidle Tashidele Punsum Sok, Ama Pardo Kunsum Sang, Tundu Dewa Topasho. Thank you to my instructor sitting Paldun Law for that. I wanted to keep my remarks brief but touch on some of the things we have just heard today. First of all, starting with Mr. Michael Van Walt and his partner, Meek, and the extensive research you have done and contributing to the body of understanding and knowledge which is the cause of Tibetan autonomy and correcting the historical narrative that is being propagated. So thank you for that. Tujiche Gadanche. I wanted to add that we've heard about the year of the Iron Rat and the year of 2147, and I wanted to acknowledge that we had an important step towards better understanding of Tibet, where we had some Lunar Year celebrations among many different Asian groups, cultural groups, and entities and nations that were celebrating the Lunar New Year just a few weeks ago here in Toronto. And I was very pleased that we had Tibetan representatives at that gathering Sonam Lankarla, Sering Wangyala, to meet with the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, to provide him kara and to take a photograph with him and start some of that dialogue that is so important, because that is important in terms of moving forward as a government. What I wanted to also touch on is this issue about what Mr. Van Walt mentioned, that we missed having a very important opportunity in Ottawa just on Thursday, when we were meant to have Sik Yong La, together with Mr. Van Walt, together with folks from the National Endowment for Democracy, speaking on Parliament Hill about the important cause of Tibetan autonomy and how we moved forward with things like the Middle Way approach and the Sino-Tibetan dialogue. We were foiled by the elements, unfortunately, where people's flights were being canceled and Sik Yong La was not able to join us, and those meetings didn't happen. But I commit to you, and I know James shares this commitment, that we will make those meetings happen in the near future, and we will have those meetings, because having people like Sik Yong La, having people like Professor Van Walt in front of the various officials in Ottawa is critical. We had planned a meeting with the Special Canada-China Committee, which, as you know, is looking at all dimensions of the relationship between Canada and China. And there's a huge human rights dimension to that relationship. And we need to have the Tibetan component as an important part of that dialogue. So I commit to you that we will make that happen in the near future. I wanted to also offer some words in terms of former High Commissioner James George. And I say this to you with some sense of connection, not just to the Tibetan cause, but to refugee causes from the early 1970s. Because I used to take great pride in saying the first non-white massive refugee movement in Canadian history was always me and my community, the Ugandan Asians, in 1972. And then people like my assistant, Tenzin Chukila, and others politely corrected me and said, you know, Jola Arif, it's actually the Tibetans that came here under Pierre Trudeau between 1970 and 72 that were the first major non-white refugee movement. That is a good thing to be corrected on, but James George, for those of you who don't know, was the High Commissioner at the time to India and to Nepal, and it is his advocacy with the government of Pierre Trudeau that resulted in so many Tibetan families coming to this country, including none other than Pema Mentu's family. So thank you to James George, may he rest in peace, but thank him for that very important contribution. And I just want to finish by talking a bit about the Parliamentary Friends of Tibet, and I know James will discuss this a little bit as well. We have reconstituted the Parliamentary Friends of Tibet. We had our first annual general meeting of the new parliament, and I'm very proud to say that we signed up 51 new members from various parties to join the association, and thankfully I was given the privilege to once again serve as the chair of this organization, of which I'm very proud to be the chair of the Parliamentary Friends of Tibet and to continue my advocacy on behalf of all of you in the Parliament of Canada. To DJ. And just so you know how important this group is that we run that internship program. And I'll just finish on this, and you've heard me promote the internship program many times in the past. But if you're curious about why bringing young Tibetans to Parliament is important, I ask you to look no further than Sherip Terchenla. Sherip Terchenla is currently, as you have heard many times today, the Executive Director of the Canada-Tibet Committee. I am proud of him, the community is proud of him. He started in my office 4 years ago as my Parliamentary Friends of Tibet intern. So please apply to the program, work for a member of parliament. You never know where you may end up. So congratulations, Sherip Terchenla. Congratulations to the community for this beautiful facility. We are always in awe when we step inside the facility as it has been newly renovated. We are very proud to serve you in Ottawa, and we continue to advocate for you in every regard. Gadinche, Tujiche, Losar, Tashidle.
Kushab Arif Rani Chola to the chess shui. Teje Ushungi, Tezo Tumi Kushab, James Maloney Chon, the Songshin Nangju.
Thank you, Chola Arifla. Next, we have speech by Member of Parliament for Etobicoke Lakeshore, Honorable James Maloney.
Thank you, thank you. Happy New Year, happy Losar, Tasha Delay. It always gives me great pleasure to come here today. You have no idea the immense pride I experience because this community and this facility is here in my riding in Etobicoke Lakeshore. And Arif gets a little tired of me hearing about that because they say, you know, Arif, the center is in Etobicoke Lakeshore, not Parkdale High Park. Just want to drive the point home a little further. I want to welcome all of my colleagues. We have senators, we have members of parliament, we have members of provincial parliament, we have councillors. So President, you talked about, and congratulations again on this facility, you talked about this being an example of your community being united. I would say looking in front of me, this is an example of the community being uniting, because you are bringing all levels of government, Liberals, Conservatives, members of the NDP, and Gord Perks together in the same room. So thank you for that. Now, Tibetan communities around the world are celebrating this week, and I, like all of you, are filled with hope as we celebrate the Year of the Iron Rat. As you know, the rat is the symbol of intelligence and vitality, and it's my hope that these two qualities will be reflected around the world. Now, there's no question that the Tibetan community embodies these two qualities. I'm also hopeful that the Tibetan people's unwavering commitment to compassion and tolerance will also pervade and dominate as we tackle challenges at the international level and require those wonderful qualities you exemplify. Now, as I reflect on the 8 symbols of Losar, it is the lotus blossom, representative of the clarity of mind, the vase, representative of prosperity, and longevity as the eternal knot, symbolizing union of wisdom and compassion that are particularly poignant to me in our world today. The Tibetan people's commitment to these qualities, even in the face of stiff opposition, has been inspirational to both me as a member of parliament and my personal life, and this helps guide me. Now, as Arif mentioned, we were to have Sikyong in Ottawa earlier this week, and unfortunately he wasn't able to make it. As Arif also mentioned, we are your advocates in Ottawa. We're very proud of that. We take it very serious and will continue to work hard. This community faces a great number of obstacles, but you know, and I would like to remind you again, you have us there supporting you, and we have your back. So that's something we're very proud of. As Professor Van Walt said, the reality of today is not always the reality of tomorrow. And things you think you can't change today, you may be able to change tomorrow. That's a very powerful message, and one I'm going to take away from today. So thank you for that, and thank you for all of the work you do. There is one thing we cannot control, and that's the weather here in Canada. So I assure you, next time you make an effort to join us there, we will continue to work hard, but keep in mind, we can't stop that. But we're grateful you're here today, and I look forward to reading your report, and thank you for sharing that with us today. Thank you. Happy Losar, Tasha Delay.
Kushab James Maloney chola tujiche shua the chapchi. Kelojula gilubtu ngene sharcho potula shebe shabshe sekushuju.
Thank you, Honorable James Maloney. Next, we have dance performance by students of Gay Lochola called Sharcho Potala.
lobjulagi lobjuna batsamalo tujeche teje logi ziring dojilagi lobju namne dome shabjo sekushuju.
Thank you, students of Gelochola. Next, we have dance performance by TCCC students of Getsi Dojila, and the dance is called Dome Shabdo.
also lobge sirin dojila lobtu namne yakushu tabnang so tuje che shue dejela ngade jezo tumi kushap Christine Hogarth cho ne songshe nangju.
Thank you, students of Getsering Dojila. Next, we have speech by Member of Provincial Parliament for Etobicoke Lakeshore, Honorable Christine Hogarth.
Well, those are Tashi Delay, everyone. It is always a privilege to be here amongst all of you, regardless of the event, if it's an opening of your basketball court or just to join you for some tea and the delicious cookies, which I think I've overindulged with as I've been sitting in the front. I just want to thank everybody, all the volunteers, all the board members, all the families, the wonderful, beautiful children who have sung and danced for us today and entertained us this morning. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. I wish you joy, I wish you prosperity, I wish you health and happiness over this year. 2147, the year of the Iron Rat. I've learned a lot over this last year and a half being your member of provincial parliament. It is deeply an honor every day to serve the people of Etobicoke Lakeshore, where you have chosen your home to be for your cultural center, and as a member of the government, to serve the people of Ontario with good things moving forward. Congratulations to all of you. I'm wishing you a wonderful year, success, celebration, and I look forward to continue to work with my neighbor to the east, from the MPP from Parkdale High Park, as we continue to bring your voice to the Legislature of Ontario. Thank you very much and have a wonderful celebration.
Kucham Christine Hogarth chokla songshina wa toje che shwe deje ngade jozo tumi kucham Putila Capuchin cho ne songshe nangju.
Thank you, Honorable Christine Hogarth. Next, we have our very own Member of Parliament, Provincial Parliament, Honorable Putila Capuchin.
Tajanang, Namlo Sartse Tashi Dele, Puripundatso. Wishing everybody Losar Tashi Dele 2147, the year of the Iron Mouse. Sokzo Tirwangila. Gyulet Hamalo, Ani Ganju Chondeling la Thala Nangyezo, Tringi Zego Tadinang Wada, Mutune, Ganju Chondeling la Tuzunang Wada, Huda Patachini Kaduine, Tuzutunang ne, Chalenang Wadilanga, Tujiche Shugi. I'd like to thank the President, Tirwangila, the executives of the center, and also all of the volunteers for all the work that you've put in on your own time to make not only this event possible, but also all of the wonderful programming that happens throughout the year as we just witnessed. I had the privilege of being part of the Canadian delegation to the World Parliamentarians Conference in Latvia last year, where I had the opportunity to get a preview of the report that Dr. Michael Van Walt presented. And I have to say, Michael, that it is actually really it worked out really wonderful that the first public presentation of the final conclusion of the report happened with the people rather than with the parliamentarians, because it is the people who need to know that the truth that we've always believed, that we know in our hearts, has now been proven with a decade-long research project with scholars from all around the world. And now we have the added responsibility to make sure that we are electing representatives who uphold that truth and that our government takes action. That this is not a report that is going to just collect dust and lay on a shelf, but will bring results for the Tibetan people, particularly for the people inside Tibet. And I want to also say that all of us as Tibetans, we are gathered here in this center, we have a home. We are wearing our Tibetan national outfits. We sing in Tibetan. We have the wonderful statues here. We have been able to have certain rights and privileges that people inside Tibet don't have. But also, while we enjoy this, we have another responsibility for us as Tibetan Canadians, because we are settlers on this land. The original caretakers of this land, the indigenous peoples, are suffering just like our brothers and sisters inside Tibet. They have many issues stemming from colonization. Many indigenous communities don't have access to clean drinking water. The suicide crisis among the youth in indigenous communities is growing and is a national shame for us in Canada. And so for us, as Tibetans, as settlers, we should be able to relate to the experience of being occupied, to the experience of the colonization, the impact of colonization on communities, on us as people. And if we want to receive the solidarity of the Chinese people in China, then we have to lend solidarity here in Canada to the indigenous peoples. As you have heard in the news recently, there is a major urgent issue happening right now, and that is with the Tibetan nation. There is a pipeline that is being built across their land, unceded land, I have to add, and that the pipeline is going through sacred land that is sacred to them, sacred burial lands. And they are asking that a different route be picked, not the one that is currently planned. And of course, as we have heard in the news, that is not being listened to by either the corporation or the governments responsible. So, at critical times like this, I urge all of you, all of us, to take a moment to reflect on our responsibilities, to take a moment to learn the true history, just as the true history of Tibet is something that we want to make sure that everybody in the world knows. We take a moment to learn the true history of the people, of the original people of this land. So that is my message to you all. Of course, as always, I have nothing but deep love for my community. I wish great success for all of us in the coming year. And I want to thank all of you for all that you do to keep our community strong, to keep our community growing. Thank you very much.
So, Kucham Putila Capuchin and Songshana to Jeche. Deje Sunny Tumi Kushap God Park Chone Songshanangju.
Thank you, Putila. Next, we have City Councillor for Ward 4, Mr. Gord Parks.
Losa Tashidale. Friends, I want to thank you for inviting me here again to share Losar with you. I've lost count of the number of New Years that we've shared, but as I always do, I want to bring greetings from the Mayor and the entirety of City Council. Torontonians know the important part the Tibetan community and many other communities who've arrived here in the City of Toronto play in making Toronto a richer, more diverse, more exciting, and more inclusive society. We want to thank you particularly for the lessons that the Tibetan culture and His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, bring us in terms of compassion, wisdom, and peace. Thank you. I see Senator Danino's just leaving. I wanted also, as I do every year with Senator Danino, to agree to accept his challenge to make a resolution to make this another year when we all collectively fight for a free Tibet. When Putila was speaking, I was reminded of something that we do at all the meetings at Toronto City Hall, which is we take a moment and acknowledge the land that we are on. This land here is covered by Treaty 16 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. It has also been home to the Wendat people, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, and is currently home to many diverse Indigenous communities, Métis, and is also, we should remember that as people living on treaty lands, we too are treaty people and have a responsibility to those treaties. Together, when we remember where we are, we also remember where we came from. And we remember that all of us share this earth, sometimes in peace and sometimes not. And that we all have a duty to each other to acknowledge the rights, the international laws, and the idea that we can arrive at a time of peace and a time of a free Tibet. Thank you so much for having me here.
Kushab God Park Shaw ne Songshi Nawa Ning Tawa Doji Che Shui. Deji Lobgi Toge Lagi, Lobjo Namne, Begi, Loga Arshie Shebe Shabshi Segushuju.
Thank you, Mr. God Parks. Next, we have performance, Arshe Dance by Performing Arts students of Getopkela.
Joshua, Joshua, Akaya, Joshua. Sa de la vacances de la de ma cosa bianco que yo chane wenang se la wa la bona se nge zangiare Joshua Joshua akaya ku Joshua Talashe Viringi toke to lalanisu Saga sawe yire Rola bandesu Saga sawe yire Rola bandesu Let's go! Dash-mi się pesza do nanika, mieczo 멜루레 짜쇼 짜쇼 아까야 부짜쇼 Chela belas shower is shower is Tawelelas So yakri gonza de pechone lo sun la yowayi de la chupe lo sun la yowayi Shabdo chita shabdo chita shabdo ye som chene moto dish Yala ashe shupe aka dana tayon boko dene diyo Chege som chele time di so yala time di so som cheme como puto so yala so yala como puto som cheme so la mo so yala som cheme shawera so yala so som cheme gopo so yala gopo so som cheme pala ki gawa puchung malang kipa maki mindulas So de la chupe lo sun la chemicho shabdo chita shabdo you do
Lasso Kendobgila lobcho samalo tojeche ane dangi shuwa nashila yang manzo tanda kanjulingi songmi lake membership card sogoge na phage tanda sayang lai go tribe phage sonangge insa number so gang mama phechene tetunjo nanglo na rewarang shugi gang mama ji phage che dejela Canada beduen japjur sokbe genzi sherap tachi la ne sungshe nangju
Thank you, students of Getopgela. Quick announcement to make. We have our membership renewal table at the hallway. So please, if you have not renewed your membership or earned a membership, we are requesting you to participate in this to help with the expenses of operating this center. Thank you. Next, we have speech by Canada-Tibet Committee Executive Director, Mr. Sherab Tarchinla.
Tomade Mimana Samala Losage, somebody touched the Canada, Pedalendo Subshuze, somebody touched the Shujita, and a conjunction so that Julian number Samala to Tarento Sikashe, Kokabna, the learning a Tujiche Shuji. That the training things are those cases Satambo and Dogala, ni Canada Pedalendo Cola, numbers of Hakungi, Yahamagunge, Pejing is about Mambo Ure Tingudu. The Indo Canada Pedalendo Cogi. Capjon, the Migu, the Legulangi, Tortuji Shuachi. Canada, Pedal Lenzo, the Tsuje, low Kalakansam, low Sunjisoni Chadidu, and Miguzo, the Penando, draw me top down, Manzo Petwegi, Rewachi, that the Migu, the Dubiacheto, and Ganzu Leguizo, the any Canada Shun, Trezo, and Shunde, Mayimbe Topakala, Peding Shuducheda, 안 다가나시 베든 제외게 저도다 되도가라 냠슈나에게 두스 레구 차디고도 tani tak legu ki chik pe do da chadang ji shu mo che thre nima gyurung bo cha indu kala namazu mangbo ji pije ta thogo to ijire da yine nge di ji shunge thoso jida da ngi lega de shudu che gi lega cha de do kala ani chapsi dewe gi nizu khashi mashu rashu cha gi do an nyecha nimasum la Canada thozo koma Senate House la ani those ngazo peduen gyabgyo nang denge Senator Tan Hai ngoge peduen ko la those trejaji sha ngodo chungsha an trejaji gi nangduen zo ji shuwa na ani diresha da Canada shungwe ne peduen gi to umelam la gyabgyo che ro pheran la do me thopdang la gyabgyo nang goe che an ta na shi gyabe shime la Canada shungwe ne kanto do gi gyabgyo nang goe che niwadela phenang do chude rawa ani kei ge rawa ani khoriuk sungyop ani chepsi zomba di nangdön zoji thoja ge nangdön zoji diresha di chamala ani those thoja sha che ani kendra shungune khayo layo gi gyabgyo shu chumba nangro nas khwa ge dus thoja sha ding na ma so shungye chongsu ta china be gi kangye se the di chi ngara zungone nge chobangune dos legu chedego worte ine 제여 디트란 페제 되지 독도 되지 하고 차대도 그런 미국 거라 첨보지 인도 갈러로 이네다 다른데 준주주 이네 넘버스 도슝에 줘서 로사게 답된제 아니 인게라 치카시 쇼체 슈초체 다디 마슝가 되지 슝에 줘서 다른 군도조 도스타 마이클 벤월 도 페어레 안 다른 차조 나발라 단다 간주친들링게 심간 충와 하모니 룸라 아니 슝게 넘발라 Michael ke dos khora shimju chewe thep thanda lochul has kale na we thanda thep dikola ani kamen nangire ani shunge number khamama phero na shuje ngaran jo gi chap chadwe kola ngaran jo thona ma chewe na an chi yakhap chi mi shen ji gi ngaran jo kange segire lan ding it to jo jo rewa norgyo re thing do ngaran jo ngone na thona nang go chi che an digal khamama phero na chujang awala kuch so I would like to speak few words in English. First of all, happy Losar to everyone on the behalf of Canada-Tibet Committee. Canada-Tibet Committee is an advocacy group. We have been working for the freedom and the democratic rights of Tibetan people for the last 32 years in Canada. We've been trying to be your voice in Ottawa. And I don't really need to go to the history of 32 years. We have been involved in several projects. We also, because we do not have the official representative of CTA in Canada, so we try to be that link between Central Tibetan administration and the Canadian government. And my job is to push Canadian Parliament, Canadian government to support Tibet issues as much as possible. So. And because today is a Losar, I think I have brought a small good news for everyone. But I can't really say it's a good news because Tibet issue is such a big issue, you know. And I always try, that it can get a little depressing because it's always something bad is happening. Nothing seems to be improving. We're dealing against a country as big as China is, so this really comes good news. But here it is. So on February 27th, on the third day of Tibetan New Year, Canadian Senator Tan Hai Ngo introduced a motion on Tibet in the Senate House. And this motion calls Canadian government to actively support Tibet issues. And of the several points that the motion calls for, some of the more important points are Canada must actively support Sino-Tibetan dialogue. Canada must support the linguistic rights of Tibetan people. And Canada must support religious rights. Canada must support the preservation and promotion of Tibet's unique ecology and environment. So these are some of the points. And of course, there's one point I shouldn't forget, which is Canada must ask China to stop the interference in the process of recognizing the reincarnation of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So that's pretty much about the CTC's Canada-Tibet background and the kind of work we do. But because I've always been inspired by Michael's work ever since I have learned about his work, I wanted to add that, it's been now, more than 70 years since we lost our country. 70 years is a long time for the oppressor to change the course of history, for the oppressed one to get used to the life we live in, and for the international community to lose interest in the subject. And of these 3 points, I'm more concerned about the second point, which is something within our control. We must engage more. We cannot afford to do nothing. If we do nothing and expect something to happen, nothing is going to happen. We cannot expect foreign powers to gain independence, gain freedom, gain autonomy for us. Nobody is going to give us, Tibet for free. We cannot wait and see if China is going to change. We must engage. Tibetans, youth, at whatever age we are, we must engage. I know there are so many young, educated, skilled, highly experienced Tibetans here, and I'm sure you are busy in your own life, but I request you, taking this opportunity, to think about Tibet. I'm sure you do, but please, think about whatever ways you can raise Tibet issues, whether it is writing articles about Tibet on Canadian newspaper, whether it is reaching out to like-minded civil societies, whether it is participating in Tibetan organizations such as Student for Free Tibet, Tibetan Youth Congress, Chushi Council, Tibetan Women Association, and Canada Tibet Committee. Please participate, because the next 7-8 years is going to be critical. And my goal is to give my best effort when His Holiness is with us. The day His Holiness is not with us, I'm not saying we won't have hope, but our movement, our struggle will take a different path. And I don't know what that path is, but we must remember that we have very limited time. Thank you so much, and happy Losar, and I'm sorry again because it's a Losar time and I can't get too depressing, but it is what it is. Thank you so much.
라소 견제 셰럽타 질라 송신나와 도제체 디질라다 넘버서다 디에식 디나로나 온디리오 베기 드가스 방원에 되시 자글라 셰베 샵시 잡된 세션 당주.
Thank you, Sherab Tartinla, for the inspirational speech. Much appreciated. Next, we have a very special performance by former Tipa artist called Damien Shabdo.
당근의 전이 가다 당근의 전이 가다 되게 나 오늘 로사 이제 가봐 상고가 정리를 아직 잡으시면 안 되게
이제 다 되가 수박이 단도에 잡시 즉 맞잡 공라 아니 세다나야 니스도 디 나온 좋았지 가져 주되는 게 속신 스링도지라네 딜리 숨주 뒤된 고디 콜라 송신낭주 속신라.
Thank you to all the performers for the wonderful performance. Next, we have announcement on the March 10th rally by Vice President of TCCC and CTAO, Mr. Sring Dojila.
Toma delia pegi lana mebe udi jinor koma jamgo jumbo chole ya kuja pibe to pe kyalo nidon game shipsheptun losalia ngetri Ontario President Soba Pemelenzo Shunu Perante Luzu Soba Da Chushikandu Sapshu Chetri Losalia Samalolia Testile Shuayin Chitani Tangazu Chapsigi Legu Karinangi Yobai Nangazu Topanga Ki Nyambru Tola Nangiore Tringa de dos Yungo de Manzu Sumju to Jangi Chetuin Tangi Sumju to Jacolia, Langazolia, the Seshe Chigumare, Langazota Yak to Kangiore Tayin Bene Pearlia Chashabaina Tangazu Migata Tokula Susu Sulia Meta Capture Dusche Ani Rasolo Tanshire Manzu Rawanungal Deche Sumju Tejin Lolia Tamachik Mashilegi Yomare Tamachik Delia Sangolagi Komba Yachimbu Sheche Dinimotelia Kamanganji Peronans Changazu Bukishu Penye Sangololia 벽이 부터 보모 수인바이네 참말로리야 추버 권제 배로나 슈기 다가 나시 군디 남바조 망시 배로나 슈기 토론토리아 투균도 나시 ngaju zomsadi tanda Missouri Park delia shoke chudu chuwal zomei andene chudu chaga chukchi lama Queen Street ne marching and Young Street galaya dene bloor la through ani St George galaya north la chingche ani jami shungzab la dos toai daga nashi loda nashi cheche order wala ya doya ngaju bus chi thadi shuyu bus di zomsa di shoke thanang ju Jameson ki lapta ki gonda delia shoke chuju ngawala zomro na samalo ani chuju nga da chege tholiya bus di ya thungyu tuju tagda gan ya auto wala phenge yobayo na thiri ngaju mege gi sumju du ji che do table ni gap sha yo mege ya chik lapo yoma choda yobe cho ni ga le ya ani phenge yobana tuji si mege ya tokyo ro na shwe ngaju bus chi le she bus na le ya mi ngapchu ngadu shongyo di sonza lenge zo to mege kyo ro na tat sumju du jing gi che do ya samre dosong ge pe chombu do shwe da pena sha sha na dani tongra gulhas chi dosong dosha ngaju del permit shwe re daga nashi insurance le re bus le re del ya dosong pe mangbu alenge zo tuji si three samalo test chi mangbu ma chone menge table ni gya she del ya test chi namro na shwe yin ani thama del ya three losa de samalo tobu yu rewa yu tuchena
laso ne sokshu sedojila ne sumju de jana deve seta na wa tuji laso da di suji gi ngela azu je gu thama to cha de sha is a thama de Ontario bege de ga subangwe ne ya danye shabjo shebe
Next, we have dance performance by ex-TIPA artists called Damien Shabdo, and this is the final item before lunch break.
Number zo cha shu chenbuji da tamadil. Bashun doga zuba sol ning taban tuji che shui. Haza daleng onzeng galang zugi che da mimang lenge number zo zobu yongya la kolang zo kule jue jene singui shiwu ya kush. Hazo la jimbi nang so inza denza mimang sangwe zabshi de. Tuji che shui. Ta number zo sui person re mangchen pagi pe dub sinsha ene number zoda samsam jogo to dewe kap jen shela chuna shimle mandaji orda de number zo mashyam khinge bare inza tanga zo shela gi de na je samlo tunju na wa toje che shela gi je la ngam zo chu je chao zo sum na kam chenga la yang zo an zo ru je zom je yang zego de mu tene na ya je la zo number zo shela nye bo chero na to che na ka din che.
Thank you to all the performers for the outstanding performance. I hope you all liked it. Next, we will be breaking for lunch. All the guests are requested to join in the Harmony Room, and the rest of the attendees are welcome to join at the tables at the end of the hall. We will be resuming in 45 minutes at 3:15 p.m.